Yeah.
Have to be it, yes.
But I mean, if you're coming,
If you come out of your school, there's only one way to get back to Wisconsin.
There's two ways, really. You exit Ellicott and make the left onto
if you come out of
Wisconsin.
Ellicott.
Yes.
But for,
Yeah.
yes,
And
just
then
like for
we're
people
out
who
just-
continue down 40, if you're on 42nd Street and you want to make a right, you're gonna have to do that on Chesapeake.
That's correct.
Or river,
Or other areas.
So how
Or
come
Chesapeake
you
or
guys
Florida.
aren't going, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Wait, it's not.
There's
Wait,
a-
no,
Wait,
no, Steve, you're not gonna interrupt.
no light
You don't
there?
you don't have to apologize, because you're not gonna interrupt. Are you done?
Yeah, so we're just going to be able to make a right off of 42nd, both going south as well as going north. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So then if you're taking 42nd to go north, then you'd have to take a right on Chesapeake, go up to the light and take a left if you were going north. Is that correct?
Well, that's one option.
Yeah.
Or you could make your move
before
over
that.
to Wisconsin and other locations. Correct.
Ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Rosemary Amadei. I live on Davenport Street. And when I listen, I hear perhaps, correct me if I'm wrong, that River Road entrance is going to be the most heavily used by far of the three entrances you list. Is that correct?
You wanna
I don't know the exact numbers, but it's, Davenport, I believe, is the most we have right now.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at River. Yeah.
River is second. But yeah, for the primary ones, at least at those pickup drop-off times, would be River and Davenport. All other times, it could be spread equally versus where people are coming and going from. You could choose whatever one is easiest for you.
Okay. So, and I understand, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that someone going in the River Road entrance or exiting can take either a right or a left onto River Road, is that correct?
Yes, it's planned in every
Correct.
Because a lot of folks feel that that's going to cause a lot of congestion on River Road.
I think one of the things, and Rob can talk about this a little bit more because he's done our analysis, we've actually done a simulation, looked at the queues that build back from the intersections. One of the things we've noticed is that some of that queue, there might be some things that need to be done with the Chesapeake intersection, the timing of the lights, to try to deal with some of the queues that are happening there today. But we have studied that to the point of really looking at it and simulating the traffic movements. And we're comfortable at this point, and we're sharing that analysis with DDOT to get their those traffic operations, their expertise to take a look at it also.
And my last question has to do with something another gentleman raised, which is the impact on the surrounding quiet streets. 45th is the street that goes to Turtle Park. We have a lot of small kids walking and biking on 45th. What I foresee is cars coming out of the River Road entrance, taking a right, taking an immediate left onto Davenport, and that will take them right to 45th. And I'm wondering if you're considering signage on any of the close-in neighboring streets, and I include 43rd Place and any of the others, that would protect them from traffic making large numbers of traffic and taking particular turns.
I think the overall management of the traffic flows are something that we can certainly take a look at that a little bit more and talk to DDOT and see if there's some things like that we keep some protections that we put in place.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
So my name's Lisa Alexander. I live on 43rd Place between Ellicott and Fessenden. And I, along with my neighbors, for the last 25 years, have an annual block party on Labor Day. We just had it. And I can tell you that the consensus among all of us this past Labor Day was we couldn't believe how many young families there were. And it's really just blossoming in a way that I think is unprecedented for our neighborhood. And I think that there has to be some consideration to density because you have so many families and so many quiet streets. And it really behooves you, I think, I was here when GDS was built. You know, I was a homeowner back then, as I still am now. And I think what has happened to GDS during that time has been a wonderful partnership. I do somehow get a little frustrated going out 43rd Place in the morning and trying to get left onto River Road, which is almost impossible because the folks coming into 43rd Place from River Road, it's the only place you can turn left. And it's a very narrow little piece feeding into River Road, and that has to be taken into account. I have a question about, I'm somewhat new to this, but I'm looking at the development for retail, and I wanted to know what size of a supermarket or grocery store is planned, and can you give us some comparisons?
Sure. The idea for the retail market is really kind of an urban format grocery store, kind of 14,000 square feet. And there are many different examples of this. Mom's Organic Grocery is one. Trader Joe's has done it. And it's not really the big grocery
Just to
store.
clarify, because people
I'm sorry.
under Trader Joe's.
Pardon?
Trader Joe's isn't coming though, right? You guys have investigated.
Well, I mean, we don't have an approved plan, so we don't have anything to really pitch. We just have a neighborhood to pitch. So that's really, we're just going around and talking to folks. I mean, you know, by the end of the PUD, when there's a plan approved, then I think that's going back out and trying to see what grocery stores might be interested. But certainly the intention is to have a grocer here in the 14,000 square feet.
Add one thing to the previous question about the issue of cars turning onto 43rd Place, and we know that that's an issue. And actually, these guys and Phil have designed that entrance into the school very much to mitigate that problem that currently exists. Because now cars will be able to go in that left turn lane, turn into the garage, you know, the GDS underground thing, drop their child off, exit onto Ellicott, turn right, and go downtown, which is generally where a lot of our traffic is going. So I think it will actually really help 43rd Place to have that entrance there. That's
I have a related question, John.
All right, so I'm going to let you go, then you, then you.
Hi, Allison Feeney from Chesapeake and 45th. I have a question about the limitation on the left turns from River Road going in towards the site. Will DDOT be looking at the bigger grid? Because I believe a lot of those were decisions that were made by this ANC, and I think that they were wrong-headed, and I would really love to see those reconsidered. I think the grid needs to be opened up more, and that would alleviate a lot of the traffic issues that we see.
One of the things that we're performing is a comprehensive transportation review that we're scoping out with DDOT. I think because of the nature of this project, we've done a lot of analysis very early on in the process, even before the PUD has been submitted. As Phil said earlier, we haven't even submitted, the PUD is going to be submitted in October. But as part of that submission, we're going to be putting together a transportation study that looks at the greater network and goes beyond the footprint of the school itself and the access points. So that's something we can look at with DDOT.
So you, sir?
Ben Nussdorf, I live at 39th and Alton. I'm one of these new families that moved into the neighborhood just a few years ago. I have a wife and 2 kids, and this morning one of them became a GDS pre-K. And I'm really, really looking forward to this plan because I went to GDS for 14 years. And 10 of those years I spent driving down Nebraska Avenue through, I think it's 305, I guess. And if this plan is put into place, I'll never use my car in the mornings or the afternoons to take my kids to school again. And that's really exciting for me and the dozens of other students who, like my son, live within blocks of this school. I'm really looking forward to that because I really hate driving my car, and that was one of the reasons why I moved to Tenleytown, because, as Lieutenant Hill said, we've got the metro stations and we've got all these bus routes. I don't need to drive my car. The only reason why I need to drive my car on a regular basis is to go to the lower middle school. If this plan is approved, me and those other people who moved to this neighborhood, so we wouldn't have to use our cars because of public transportation, our cars are off the road.
I'm going to start with a little point about height. My name's Neil. I grew up on Brandywine Street near Connecticut. And I actually grew up 90 feet away from 90 feet building here, like 100 feet. And your kids will be okay. Okay? 90 feet is not very high. It's mid-rise by NCPC's definition. 90 feet. 100 isn't, it's under the Height Act. It was apparently acceptable to people who were afraid that they couldn't get wooden ladders long enough. So let's be really serious about that. When I saw this plan, and I am an architect, I should point out, I thought that this was one of the most impressive urban plans I've ever seen presented in DC. It's very concise, it's not overcomplicated, and this public space, it looks very promising. I think you could push the architect a little bit more about it, but I think it's very good. And I think that as we look towards the future, we need to sort of look at some other contexts. I live in Dutch Kills, New York, and the flood maps in my neighborhood were recently redrawn. They're redrawn every 10 years. They're called firms. And they were redrawn because of the effects of global climate change. And I think that's a very serious issue that we're going to have to deal with, that adding density that can reduce car use and can increase, and also can mitigate, is part of this problem. Because if the flood line has increased 100 feet towards my house, this is part of the adding density that can reduce car use and therefore fossil fuel use, and just generally because urban spaces use less energy, is a key part of the problem. And I don't think we can exactly deal with that. I think that the height is extremely reasonable. I think that the design is extremely reasonable, and I really wish that you instead of pushing for these asks of lower density, would really go for things that are more sustainability oriented, particularly maybe trying to deal with the rainwater issues, because when this neighborhood was built, all those lawns, they destroyed the hydrology of the area, and there actually used to be a spring underneath GDS, or more or less where GDS was. And all those lawns are pumping toxins into Murdoch Mill Creek, so it's practically a slurry by the time it exits over by Del Cairo River. And all these things can come together, and this building could be adding density that could add to climate change, and deal with issues that are 10 years out, 50 years out, rather than looking at what someone did in the 1970s.
Then mine it.
Okay, so are you? Okay, so let's see how we're doing, and then I'll get you in a second. What's that? 10:06. So we're going to go for about 10 more minutes, and then we'll let the commissioners talk. So I've got you, and there's a woman waving at me back there, and then you.
Someone first. So I couldn't agree with you more. Climate change is a huge problem, but why don't we build, a skyscraper like New York? Nobody's talking about not increased density. I've even talked to some Ward 3 people actually who thought 65 feet was a reasonable height for this building. So it's a matter of compromise. It's a matter of saying, how can the neighborhood give a little on both sides to get what we want? Some people want 50 feet, some people want 90 feet. So where do we compromise? Where do we come out with something that is reasonable for everybody? Some people are not happy with the notion of a very tall building that would make the sidewalk feel uncomfortable for some of us who feel claustrophobic. There's nothing in the backside of this design that shows any sort of modulation for 42nd Street. It's absolutely straight up. Where are the setbacks? There are no setbacks because there's not enough room for setbacks. If they put setbacks in, then they won't get as many residences that they need in there in order to cover their costs. It's simple economics. And I don't think the neighborhood should be responsible for economics. GDS is economics. Let's compromise. Let's have something where everybody gets a little bit of what they want. And help for climate change.